boys and girls, welcome back to art. We're going to start a new lesson. Last week you had gotten to do sculpture, and so now we're coming back and we're going to be doing a 2D painting with a silhouette. So some of your vocabulary words you're going to learn this week is horizon, which is your line that you're going to create across your paper, which is going to separate your foreground and your background, which is usually your sky and things that are going on behind your picture. We're also going to be learning and using some warm colors and some cool colors. I got this lesson off Young School Art with Mr. Gianetto, and so I really liked the way he used the warm and cool colors and was going to try to have you guys work with those. So I have a 9x12 paper right now, boys and girls, and I'm going to go ahead and put my name on the back using a pencil so it's not dark. You definitely don't want to use a marker to write your name on the back. I'm also going to write my grade level and my teacher, whoever my teacher is, and then I'm going to flip it over because I don't want my name in the middle of my artwork. I want a fresh, clean, white paper to work on. Now notice that I'm also working on like a piece of paper, but you don't need this underneath. You need just like maybe a placemat or something if you're working on a table or somewhere that could get messed up. Just kind of a placemat so that way when your paint comes off, it lands on something besides your workspace. Another thing is my paper is turned where it's horizontal and it's longer this way, like a landscape, because sometimes we have our paper turned up like this, but today I want you to actually have your paper facing horizontal just like this. We're going to create a landscape image on here and we want it nice and long. So I have a pencil, boys and girls. You're probably going to be using a pencil just real quick to create your horizon. I also have some oil pastels, which I'm going to use. These are just the Crayola oil pastels. I know you can get them like at Walmart, but you don't have to go buy these school supplies, boys and girls. If you don't have oil pastels, you can also use crayons, and that's what a lot of kids are going to use because they don't have oil pastels at home, and these work just fine. So if you have crayons, use your crayons. If you have oil pastels, you can use oil pastels, whatever works for you. So I said we first are going to create our horizon line, and that is a horizontal line that goes from one side of your paper all the way across to the other side of your paper. And that is going to split your paper from foreground to background, really giving your paper and your artwork some depth. So I'm just going to draw a line. And it's not way down at the bottom because I kind of want to split it evenly. I do have a little bit more at the top where my sky is going to be because this is where I'm going to be creating my silhouette. And we'll talk more about silhouette next week. So I have my horizon, and notice it goes from one side to the other. I'm going to be creating down here water, so I'm going to be using my cool colors. And up here I'm going to be creating a sky. And yes, normally we have like blue skies, but we also have skies when they're orange and yellows and reds when the sun's coming up or the sun's going down. So we're going to kind of create two different sets of colors, our cool colors and our warm colors. So I have some oil pastels here, as boys and girls, and I talked about this horizon and it's separating my water or my foreground from my background, which will be my sky. And in this side where we're creating water, we're going to use cool colors. And so these are in my cool colors is your blues, your purples, your greens. And so, and look, I tested over here. This is one of my blues and it's a little darker, but it is in my cool colors. So these are the colors that I'm going to use on the lower half of my paper in my foreground to create my water. And really what I want you to do is be creating lines right now. And so you can create lines however you want. And so since this is water, I'm going to do some curved lines, and you do not have to do them like this, boys and girls. You can create some wavy lines. I'm just really trying to add some texture into my paper so it's not just, I'm just going to create kind of a wavy line in here with my horizon so it's not so straight. I don't want this big old bumpy line though, so I'm just going to create some lines in here. We're using one of our elements of art. We're creating line, and again I'm just creating some different kinds of lines going over each other, really trying to create some texture in my artwork. So I like how that looks right now, but I'm gonna leave it alone. It's not done, so don't think, what is Miss Shop doing? So I'm done with these cool colors. I don't need them anymore. And remember, these are oil pastels, but you can use crayons too, boys and girls. Don't stress over it has to be oil pastels. So now, if those were my cool colors, boys and girls, and I said on the top half of my horizon, I want to use warm colors, what would those colors be? And I'm actually going to turn my paper around, and I'm going to, so I'm not working across it and using my hand and smudging what I did up here. So I turned it so that way I'm not working across my art. Now, I asked you, what are my warm colors? If you said your oranges, and here's a red orange, and red, and pink, and yes, are yellow. So when I think of warm colors, I think of the sun, I think of fire, those things that are hot, and that's the colors that I see when I am thinking of warm colors, and those are what I'm going to use to create on the top part of my paper, which is my background. And again, I'm just going to use some different kinds of lines now. This is my spiral, and I'm just doing that. I'm not actually creating pictures, boys and girls, so I'm not doing that yet. I'm just going to create a couple lines, getting some texture on my paper, some lines and some warm colors. So again, you don't even have to use all these. I'm just going to kind of create some lines in here, and that's enough that I'm going to put on there. I'm not going to use my red or my pink. But now you can see that my background has some warm colors and my bottom half has my cool colors. And now I can flip my paper over so you can see this is my foreground, this is my background. So now I'm ready to add some color with paint onto my paper. I am going to be still using my cool colors down here and my warm colors in my background. So if you have watercolors at home, boys and girls, you can use these. If you don't, then you can still go back in with crayons and lightly color between your darker lines. If you don't have these, you can also try to make watercolors. If you have some old markers, you just take some water and you put the markers in there, but make sure they're old and you ask a parent before you do that. So we're going to use our watercolors. This is our medium that we're using. It's actually mixed medium because I used oil pastels, but I'm also using the watercolors here, and water is part of this medium because I have to use water in order for the watercolors to work. So I'm going to take, and since I can only use cool colors, I'm going to use these colors within this area right here to create the bottom of my water. And you do not have to use all of them, boys and girls. Now remember, when you hold a paintbrush, you hold it down here. I'm not putting my brush down here and doing this. That's rubbing my paper, and it's no good for your paper and no good for your brush. And you can even see right here where the fibers are kind of coming off the paper because we are damaging it. So you just need to gently brush inside the watercolor and then just kind of use a swish, 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 swish. You see how my hand is turning and I'm kind of sweeping, like I'm sweeping it away. And I'm gonna swish, swish, swish. This will kind of help you move your watercolors, and I wanna make sure that I get all the way down to the bottom. I'm not leaving any white edges. And I'm gonna go and use another color. But I'm gonna stick with my cools, and I'm gonna also come in here and I'm going to swish, 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 add in some more. This is my purple. And I'm just adding in some more color. But remember, I don't want to leave any white space. Remember, swish, swish, swish. It'll help you add in those colors and blend them in together. So I'm just gonna swish, and I'm gonna add some color to the rest of this and finish up my color. Notice I'm not using the green, even though it is a cool color. You can though, boys and girls. This is your painting. I am just choosing not to use green in mine, and maybe on my next one I will, but on this one I was just trying to use the blues and the purples, and I can see a white space. And I might even come in and add some green to the blue on the top, so it gives it kind of more of a blue-green color. And I'm staying within my purple lines there, but I'm gonna go in and add a little bit of green because it makes a blue-green color, which kind of looks cool, and I like that effect. So I'm gonna add a little bit of green. I made sure I washed off my brush before I went into my blue or my green color, so I'm not mixing colors. So you can see that green on top of there, and I'm making my intermediate colors. So paint your blues and your greens and your purples in your lower half, which is your foreground. All right, boys and girls, notice that I have turned my paper again, so I'm not working across my art. I want to make it easy for me, so I turned my art so that right now I'm going to be painting the background, and I'm not using black or any of my cool colors over here. I'm going to be using my warm colors again, and you're just going to really make lines and going up. You can do it how you want. You're just creating your background by painting, making sure that you cover all this white space in here. We don't want to leave gaps because it makes your artwork look like it's not finished. So again, I make sure my brush is clean, and I come in and I get some of my other paints. I see there's a little bit of green in my paint, but that's okay because you can just kind of wipe it out. And I'm just gonna kind of come in here, get right next to that line so that I don't leave that gap in there. And I'm just gonna paint using that swish, swish, swish technique. And I'm gonna just add a little bit of water to it. And the nice thing about this is really creating intermediate colors and blending in your colors. Remember, no rubbing your paper. We don't want to hurt the paper. We don't want to hurt the brush. If you need to dump out your water and get clean water, that sometimes helps too, so you're not adding colors into your watercolors. So I've done yellow, and in this case, instead of doing lines, I'm just gonna add in my orange, but I'm gonna also blend it in with that yellow color. Creating the yellow-orange color. Now, I did not use watercolor paper on this, boys and girls, and I can see a little bit of a difference. Normally, I would say use watercolor paper, but I was trying to show you if you had some regular drawing paper at home. A lot of people don't have the watercolor paper, but if you need watercolor paper and would like that, I will definitely have it. I do not recommend using regular printer paper. That will not handle the watercolors in the water very well. It won't, it'll rip. So I'm gonna paint this, and I'm gonna finish up, and I'm gonna actually add a little bit of red to the top as I'm getting to the finishing part, and use all my warm colors here, and I used all my cool colors. But this way you start to learn how we can use our warm and cool colors in our paintings. And I like to go in and add my red down a little bit more so it kind of blends in those colors. But how you can use your colors to show things in your pictures. So finish painting, boys and girls, and you're gonna let it dry, and then next week we're gonna come back and add a little bit more to our paintings once they're dry. We don't wanna work on them now that they've been painted on. We need to let them dry from our space. So now you can see that I have a warm background and a cool foreground. Have fun, boys and girls.